Selangor know better than that. So there is a delicate balance to hold while keeping themselves at a good level to push at a high level by defeating everybody else to have a better showing than the group stage exit in this season's ACL2, and I think perhaps to try to fight to get one trophy away from JDT next season. If your final opponent is JDT, that would be the FA Cup, that could be the Malaysia Cup. That if they can do that, then you know they are another step closer to competing with JDT on their terms, similar terms. And that will be quite fun to watch, and it will be a win-win situation for everyone in Malaysian football. 10 years is a very long wait for any club who desires to win a trophy, and a lot more so for a former traditional powerhouse or big time club like in Malaysia's case, Selangor. And the Red Giants finally ended their decade-long trophy drought when they defeated PDRM 4-0 to achieve an aggregate 7-0 win to lift the MFL Challenge Cup, which is actually their first official trophy since they lifted the Malaysia Cup in 2015. And for that, it's actually a big boost for the Red Giants, having come so far after, you can say, that period where there were periods of upheaval, there were periods of deep uncertainty, and there were periods where the Red Giants unsure where they were supposed to go, where they were overtaken not just by the current powerhouses Johor Darul Takzim, who are breaking new frontiers in Malaysian club football domestically and abroad, but also even among other teams like Terengganu, their Klang Valley rivals, Kuala Lumpur City, Sabah, and even other occasional top 5 appearances like from Negeri Sembilan, from Penang. You can say that Selangor had fallen down very far, and it's only in the last 2-3 years where you can see that something is taking shape again initially under Tan Cheng Ho, but after a few months of coaching upheaval, then and currently under their current head coach Katsuhiro Kinoshi. So after the opening stumble since the Japanese took charge on 24th November last year, the Red Giants have actually gone on a winning run actually. I mean, after the initial wobble where they lost 2-3 on aggregate to Sri Pahang, and they were relegated down to the MFL Challenge Cup, which since the last edition in 2023 has been reserved for the 8 teams who were knocked out in the opening round of the Malaysia Cup as it returned to the straight knockout format following the pandemic period. So in this case, ever since that wobble in the ACL2, early wobble in the ACL2, and also I think in the Malaysia Cup, they have actually picked up quite an unbeaten run. They are gaining strength, and they have gone up to second in the Malaysian Super League, and now with their first trophy in 10 years, the Red Giants are going places. But does it mean that they are ready to reclaim the crown from Johor Darul Takzim? No, far from it. It's actually far from it. Because unlike Johor, which now has a complete infrastructure and a complete club structure that is comparable to that of an average European squad that is competing in a major top flight, and I do mean your average club, not your big clubs like your Juventus, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool, but I mean the average size, where they are more than comparable in this regard. And where this is concerned, you can actually say that Selangor have been unbeaten since they lost 2-1 at home to Pahang at Petaling Jaya on the 1st of December. And I think from there, they actually went on, you can say, an unbeaten run that actually began from, I think, let me recall, their final AFC Champions League 2 group match away to Cebu, where they won 4-0. And from there, they have actually gone from strength to strength, where they have won every single game from the quarterfinal, semi-final, and the final. Although it was also helped in this context that just a day before the actual final on tonight, that PDRM were penalized for fielding an ineligible player who was supposed to serve his suspension, but was fielded nonetheless by their former coach P. Manil, who was subsequently sidelined after this fiasco, with PDRM also protesting that actually the match commissioner signed off the thing without any problems when he looked at the squad list. So who is responsible for that? That is PDRM and Malaysian Football League to resolve, because it's a messy situation. But the main talk tonight is all about Selangor, and especially after ending their official 10-year trophy drought. Already in recent seasons, they have been coming close. This season alone, they finished runners-up to Johor in the FA Cup after they were walloped 1-6 in the cup final at Bukit Jalil. And this is their second domestic cup final. Even though this is not the Malaysia Cup, but in the Malaysia Challenge Cup, they won that in convincing fashion. And you can see that after Johor, Selangor now have a squad that is blended with experience, with a very eclectic mix of foreigners, not just from Europe or South America, but also from Jordan. Yes, Selangor have been having these Middle East players for a little while already, but it's very different from a strategy that Johor has been using, where they are looking for proven quality players from Europe who have played at the highest level in Europe. Again, it's not about playing in the UEFA Champions League, but you have already played at a good level in La Liga, being regulars, and being able to utilize that high level experience to compete when it really mattered. In this case, for Johor's case, the AFC Champions League Elite. But for Selangor, they still have some way to go. Yes, they have been unbeaten for quite some time in the Super League. Well, actually since 2nd of November, that's before the current coach came in. But under the current coach, they have gone on a run of, in the league, 4 wins and 1 draw, including a 2-0 win over Sri Pahang on 8th of February. So it is quite a good momentum that the Japanese coach has been building in this Selangor team, which has not just Safar Barudi as your club captain, but also you have a few foreigners who are capable of scoring goals. But you get the feeling that this is a beginning of a work in progress, and this is a rather gradual accumulation of Selangor taking those steps toward regaining some of the lost glory during those, you can say, ever since Johor took over the mantle as the premier team to be in Malaysia. Selangor lost quite a lot of last year, and also struggled to stay relevant in the Malaysian top flight for a period of time. At one point, even finishing, I think, 8th. And I think that was the season where the current president of the club, the Raja Muda Selangor, he has been the president since, I think, November 2018. But that was also a period where Selangor were its lowest due to those politics, due to the tug of war between the state government and the club over the allocation of funds, with the state government increasingly more reluctant to divest those funds from the richest Malaysian state to the football club as it would have been in the past, and that had been the case under the Pakatan Harapan or Keadilan administration or Pakatan Harapan government since they took power in the state in 2008. So it has been a very challenging period for the Red Giants. They had decent players who came to the club. They had done well only for them to be snapped up by Johor, or maybe they struggled, or rather they struggled as a collective because of all the political upheaval, and for a period of time before the Raja Muda of Selangor came in, they were even struggling with salaries as well. So at least for Selangor, they have done a few things right. They have now have their own training camp, although it's a far stretch from what you see in Johor's top class training facilities, the top class training field and all that. It's a different world. Then you also have a training ground, you have a dressing room, you have those medical facilities which are also open to public when the players are not using it. But I think there's still a long way to go, because it's a rather gradual process and there are clear budget constraints where this is concerned. For Selangor, what they are looking at, I think, it's to rebuild these building blocks step by step, and at the same time having to fight to withstand challenges from your Terengganu, your Sabahs, your Kuala Lumpurs, who are also proving to be equally tough challenges. In fact, for that special 100th anniversary of the first Malaysia Cup, it was not Selangor who won it. Selangor did not even reach the cup final that year. It was their Klang Valley rivals. I mean, imagine rubbing the salt on the wound when Kuala Lumpur City won it fair and square against Johor that had a rare off day when it came to tactical organisation and strategy, and that probably led to another ruthless rejig or recalibration from the region of Johor, Tunku Ismail Ibrahim, to put the club to where they are currently right now, standing near the top in Asian club football and also flying the Malaysian flag high domestically and abroad. So these are new barriers that Selangor have not reached for much longer time. So that gap is very huge. It's still huge, although Selangor are slowly closing in. Now, what is the strategy going forward, given that their current CEO, Johan Kamidon, has been in his post as the Chief Executive Officer since being appointed by the Raja Muda back in 2018. He has been here for quite a while. So he has also overseen the gradual progress and growth in the football operations after several stumbles and all that. And at one point even being ridiculed by TMJ for this, but still, there is progress, but it's quite slow. And actually, despite even winning the MFL Challenge Cup and closing in on a potential second successive run in Asia in the AFC Champions League 2, it's not a given that they're going to be fighting with Johor immediately, because right now their position as the number 2 club in Malaysia is not a foregone conclusion yet. They are not ready to challenge Johor, but they have not yet cemented themselves as a returning force, because your Terengganu are still around, your Kuala Lumpur cities are still around, your Sabahs are still around, and as long as these 3 challengers and also even Kuching City under the talented Singaporean coach Aidil Sharin, as long as these main characters are still around, it's not going to be easy for Selangor to re-establish themselves as the second best club in the country in spite of the success. Because one of the first things the Japanese incumbent has to do once this season is over is get them into second place, qualify for the ACL2, and focus on consolidating the position. And I think where his foreign predecessors had failed in the past, before Tan Ching Ho came in, set a path, set a direction, set a vision that would be coherent with what the club wants, and as I mentioned earlier, given the budgetary constraints, and develop a style of play that utilizes the best players and to keep building on the form that they are going through at the moment to go into the next season. And that is the main challenge that Kinoshi has to prevail. Achieving second place in the Super League for the second season in a row and already having this silverware, it already affirms Selangor's decision to change their coach, even though it was an old boy that they had to sacrifice. But it was not a nice way to fall out. The manner it unfolded, it was poor, but the fruits, you can say the early fruits are there. But what is the real strategy that Selangor need to have after this season? Safwan Baharudin is not getting younger. He eventually will return to Singapore. And then there's the question of Faisal Halim. Is he going to really get back into at least 3/4 of what he used to be at the peak of his powers in the 2023 Asian Cup finals? Or what are they going to do with their promising young players who might be targets of Johor, and also their foreign player strategy? What do they want? Do they want an all Middle Eastern team? Get a Middle East way of getting their football up to scratch, or up to a different level where you have a Japanese who is at a good level, having been part of the Serbian technical staff under Dragan Stojkovic. But what about the strategy for the foreigners? Alvin Cortez is worth keeping for another season, and given his quality, he's one of the few who are quite comparable with the JDT foreigners. Although I wouldn't say the very best ones like your Bergsons, but you can say comparable to Herberty. Yes, comparable to Herberty in that technical level. And he's more prolific than Herberty in that regard. But how about the others who have been serving the club more than decently during this period? Keeping the core locals to avoid being poached away, and perhaps building a certain foundation where they will eventually one day close in on Johor supremacy. I think when you have a rivalry that is going to be, that people can sense it, then I will believe that it's going to be a lot better for the Red Giants to prevail. And I do think the Red Giants, it will take some time yet, maybe another 3, 4, 5 years before they can be semi-serious challengers to Johor. I know the fans will moan, another one horse race again, another one horse race. Don't, as I have mentioned in previous videos, do not blame JDT. It's up to the other clubs to step up. It's up to the other clubs to show that, okay, if I don't have that much resources, how do I get good quality players like what they have done with the 3 Jordanian players and the Palestinian player they had in the past? Could they scour for a few more Middle East players to come to Malaysia to play for the Red Giants, and to show that maybe they are of a similar level to their European-based colleague who is doing well with Montpellier in France? And that's where they are supposed to put this benchmark at. And if they are able to do that, then at least these Jordanians or other Middle Eastern players will be able to give quite a good run of money, given that the salary structure is already quite sound and players are paid regularly again for quite a while. You can say that maybe someone will say, hey, we need a royalty that's a lot more passionate about football the way TMJ has done for Johor. Maybe having a different royalty to back it, but RMS is there for a reason. He's there to, you can say, be the unifying force after years of factional fighting, years of fracture at the boardroom level, and also I think getting everybody to be on board together on the same page, although it was a painful process for them. So for the Red Giants, with that silverware in the back, it gives them more confidence to decide how they want to plot the path ahead. What would Kinoshi want to do at the end of this season once the league ends? I think that's worth watching, because I think he does have some idea how he wants his team to play. Does have a good idea how he wants his players to compete, especially against the rest of the league. And he knows that probably by consolidating the second position, they can push to compete at ACL2 again, and or perhaps if for some reason Malaysia gets a second spot in the AFC Champions League Elite, they can rub their shoulders again with your South Korean clubs, your Japanese clubs, or Chinese clubs. But it's going to be a big jump from the ACL2, which even they are not fully adapted at that level yet. So where that's concerned, there are quite a few things to go. The gap is still wide. The resources will not be as infinite as they used to in the glory days between the 70s to the 90s. It's not the same era now. Johor are far ahead. They have broken every barrier that Selangor used to hold. Now it's up to Selangor to show that they are going to come back strong. They will eventually be worthy challengers to Johor's crown, to be real competitors to what Johor can do. But it requires a different route. You cannot copy the same thing to bankrupt themselves in the end. That's what a few clubs did in the past decade and end up bankrupting the clubs after they left. I mean, the best example is Kelantan. So Selangor know better than that. So there is a delicate balance to hold while keeping themselves at a good level to push at a high level by defeating everybody else, to have a better showing than the group stage exit in this season's ACL2, and I think perhaps to try to fight to get one trophy away from JDT next season. If your final opponent is JDT, that will be the FA Cup. That could be the Malaysia Cup. That if they can do that, then you know they are another step closer to competing with JDT on their terms, similar terms. And that will be quite fun to watch, and it will be a win-win situation for everyone in Malaysian football. And once again, tahniah to the Red Giants for their MFL Challenge Cup success. It has been a long time coming. I hope they savor this success and build on greater things to come.